We'll even give you a free consultation on your servers and storage devices to develop a custom solution to help improve your company's productivity. Plus, get special financing with Dell Business Credit and big savings on business computers with Intel Core processors. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL.
Famous conservative quotes presented by Automated Systems.
The late great Winston Churchill said, "A nation that forgets its past has no future." Very timely for what's going on in our country today.
Manufacturing companies, I encourage you to call my friend Laz Kulchar from Automated Systems. Automated Systems is a software and systems integration company that specializes in companies that are required to meet FDA compliance requirements. Automated Systems will create a custom solution for your business that will make your production lines, facilities, and plants run more efficiently. Imagine less downtime, more speed, and fewer rejects. From Fortune 500 to startup, ASI delivers solutions for your toughest automation challenges. For information, I encourage you to talk to Laz at Automated Systems. Call 844-HIRE-ASI or visit hireasi.com. That's 844-HIRE-ASI, 844-HIRE-ASI, or online at hireasi.com.
It's open enrollment season, and MediShare is a Christian healthcare sharing ministry that saves most families about $500 a month. Google MediShare and see if it is a fit for you.
7:37, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, and Jim.
In Homer Glen this morning, there is a fire on Parker Road. This is right around 180th and Parker Road, or south of the Chicago-Bloomington Trail. Allow room for the responders there. Bartlett, there's a crash. Bartlett Road at 59. Inbound Kennedy, traffic's congested approaching the Burns Circle. It's 21 minutes, O'Hare to downtown, outbound 20. Inbound Eisenhower, 28 minutes either way between 390 and downtown. Inbound Stevenson, little heavy approaching the Ryan. 30 minutes, 355 to Lakeshore Drive, outbound 28. The Ryan, your inbound delays begin at the Stevenson. It's 17 minutes, 95th to downtown, outbound 14. Lakeshore Drive, 24 minutes either way between Hollywood and Marquette this morning. That's traffic. I'm Jim Telemonte on AM 560 The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next in our AM 560 Weather Center. Patchy morning fog, otherwise clouds, and 36. We're actually at 37 right now at O'Hare. Next news coming up at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
From the Matrix Home Solutions Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com. Let freedom ring this afternoon at 2 with Sean Hannity on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Just while you're hearing from all the politicians on cable news and in print online about how they're opposed to violence, and specifically that Trump is the source of all things that are wrong in this country and the source of the instigation of violence in this country. Just a little bit of a rewind back to, all the way back to August of last year. This is Ayanna Pressley, Francis Parker Spice, one of AOC and the Squad's members. This is Ayanna Pressley on MSNBC explaining the rioting that was going on the streets of America.
I'm looking to the public. This is as much about public outcry and organizing and mobilizing and applying pressure so that this GOP-led Senate and that these governors that continue to carry water for this administration, putting the American peoples in harm's way, turning a deaf ear to the needs of our families and our communities, hold them accountable. Well, make the phone call, send the email, show up. There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives. And unfortunately, there's plenty to go around.
There needs to be unrest. There needs to be unrest on the streets for as long as there is unrest in our lives. Was that a call to unity? Was that a call to cooler heads?
There was a call to attack police. I mean, think about it. Outside the Columbus statue that day, 89 Chicago police officers were injured. 89. Remember, they were throwing rocks at them, and all of that was motivated by politicians like Presley.
This is just an example of one of the pronouncements that was made over the many months as looting was redefined into symbolic taking by none other than the Pulitzer Prize winning 1619 Project founder, Nicole Hannah-Jones. Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner, in response to rioting in Philadelphia, policing and prosecution are both systemically racist, quote unquote. And then all we're hearing is about how people have lost faith in our institutions. And why is that? It's all because of Trump. Is that right? Defund police, everything is systemically racist in America. All the institutions are, because America is systemically racist. And that doesn't undermine the credibility of those institutions in the minds of the body politic. So when Trump departs on January 20th, all of what has transpired up until this point will just evaporate into the ether, and the sun will shine, and Americans will have confidence again in all of their organizing institutions, civic, cultural, governmental. Is that right? Polling right now has 45% of independents. Dan Henninger reporting in the Wall Street Journal, part of his column. 45% of independents have lost faith in our electoral system.
It's a pretty high number.
For more on all this, we're pleased to be joined again by our friend John Hinderaker. He is the president of the Center for the American Experiment, founder of PowerlineBlog.com, and a frequent guest and co-host for me on my other show, which I always appreciate. John, thanks for guest host, I should say. Thanks for joining us again, John. Appreciate it.
Hey, good morning.
So what about this, the rallying around the integrity of our institutions, the protection of our institutions by, ironically, guardians of those institutions based on their positions who have lost much of their legitimacy well before yesterday afternoon?
So liberals are opposed to rioting now. I'm glad to see that, just like that. And the quotes that you read, were typical of many that we've heard from liberals. You think about the day when Trump was inaugurated. There was a much worse riot that day than we saw yesterday. And, of course, the last time somebody tried to break down the door to the Senate chamber, it was during the Kavanaugh hearing. Remember that, when some Democrats were trying to break in? So, you could go on and on. How about James Hodgkinson? We're still waiting for a conservative equivalent of James Hodgkinson. So the hypocrisy is so thick you can cut it with a knife.
But John, do you think Trump's rhetoric at that rally that sent the mob to the Capitol?
Well, I think that look, I mean, I've been critical of what Trump has been doing in the last few weeks. Not so much because it was inciting violence, although I did question. He said, though, my supporters are coming to D.C. and they won't stand for the election being stolen. And I question, what does that mean? They won't stand for it. They're gonna battle with the police. They're going to start a revolution. What are you talking about? I think that kind of talk can be faulted in exactly the same way that kind of speech on the left can be faulted. But I've been more broadly critical of Trump in recent weeks because of the way that he has really held out a false hope, and he's not the only one. A number of people on the right have been doing this. That the result of the election was going to be overturned, and that somehow there was going to be a vote in yesterday in Congress, to refuse to accept the vote of the Electoral College and so forth. That was never in the cards. If you want to prevent voter fraud, you really have to do it before the election. There's no way in 60 days between election and inauguration that you can conduct some kind of a legal proceeding in one state, let alone 5 or 6 states, that's going to result in a factual finding that the apparent loser of the race actually won it, and have that affirmed by the relevant appellate court. I mean, there was never time for that to happen. It was never in the cards that could happen. And I think it's quite likely that Trump is right, and that if if you only count legal votes and every legal voter only votes once, it may well be true that Trump should have won the election. We may never know that, because the problem with the one of the many problems with the lax standards for mail-in voting and dropping ballots into boxes and so forth that the Democrats established for this election, one of the problems is that the same laxness that enables voter fraud in the first place can make it impossible to prove after the fact.
But there were procedural opportunities, and both in courts of law, but with state legislatures in particular, there was the opportunity, and again, this is up to the state legislatures, and they all demurred, but to say to the Pennsylvania state legislature, how can you let the Pennsylvania Supreme Court usurp your authority and rewrite the election law in the state of Pennsylvania? Wisconsin state legislature, how can you let an administrative agency redefine indefinitely indisposed so that hundreds of thousands of cheeseheads get to vote without the voter ID requirement? I mean, so there are these. I just wanted to restate there, because we talked about it over the last 8 weeks. There are these accountability mechanisms, and you have to pursue them, but you have to sort of pursue them with sort of what you're describing, the sense of what is possible and where you can make your best arguments most effectively and most consistently to bring people in the public arena along with the fights you're having in with state legislatures or in the courts of law.
Well, I think that's right. And the same thing happened in Minnesota, where I live, by the way. There was a change in mail-in voting procedures to eliminate the witness signature requirement. That happened in, I think, 10 or 15 states, and it was the result of a collusive lawsuit between the Democratic Party and the Democratic Secretary of State that eliminated the only safeguard we had, inadequate though it was, to protect the integrity of mail-in voting. So that kind of thing did happen across the country, and there's a good reason why many people, as you point out, in the polls say they are skeptical that this election was conducted fairly. And frankly, Dan, that's something that Joe Biden and the Democrats are going to have to live with for the next 4 years. You know, I think that skepticism is likely to grow. I think over the next year or two, people are going to be investigating and researching and writing books, arguing one way or the other, either that the election was stolen or that the election was not stolen. What I would say is that the Democrats definitely tried to steal the election. And whether in hindsight they needed to do that, we still don't know. In other words, they might have won the election honestly anyway. But they certainly went out of their way to undermine the integrity of that election in many states across the country, and they're going to have to live with the consequences.
Well, even in the Georgia runoff election, I mean, it wasn't election day, it was election month. The people had a month to go and vote, and with more time, I think there's more vulnerabilities to the system.
Well, there's all kinds of things, Amy. I mean, Georgia's a state where the Republican Secretary of State, for reasons that nobody can explain, agreed under pressure from Stacey Abrams to setting up unattended boxes, but only in heavily Democratic areas, not in Republican areas, just in Democratic areas. Unattended boxes where anybody could walk by and drop in ballots, any number of ballots. Who knows, you know? And that's not, I mean, everybody knows, everybody understands that is not how you conduct an election if you want it to be honest.
Mitch McConnell, in his speech yesterday before the mob assault on the Capitol, responding to the objection that was raised against the Arizona electors, talked about sort of the double standard, and we don't want to succumb to the double standard. And as much criticism as McConnell has received, he did point out the hypocrisy of the left, which was useful, talking about the objections that Democrats leveled in 2000 after the 2000 election, after the 2004 election, after the 2016 election, including being cheered on by the likes of Durbin and others in the Senate, in his, in the body in which he resides. So that was useful. And he basically suggested that we rightly decried those fallacious objections, and so we need to have the same position now that we did then. So that's a fair enough argument to make, whether you agree with it or disagree with. But I think the larger problem that McConnell and Republicans will have going forward in the minority is the belief that they are willing to be principled across the board, number one. In other words, willing to hold themselves to the standard that they set across every issue, not just when it comes to, for example, certifying a foregone conclusion in a presidential election. And number two, that they're willing to take the fight to the Democrats to hold them accountable for not subscribing to the principles that they apply to Republicans, or not subscribing to the black letter of the law. And that's what Republicans have been seemingly unwilling to do in so many instances, thus the lack of legitimacy, thus the entrance of Trump.
Well, we'll see, Dan. I mean, I think you make a good point. Before Trump was even inaugurated in 2017, the Democrats were already talking about resisting, right? The hashtag was resist. And I've written on Powerline, I plan to resist Joe Biden and his administration every day for the next 4 years. And I'm pretty confident that McConnell, in his unaccustomed role as Senate Minority Leader, is going to resist. I certainly hope so. And I think we'll see. I think we'll see how effectively Republicans in Washington try to hold the Democrats accountable.
He is John Hinderaker, president of the Center for the American Experiment, founder of PowerlineBlog.com. John, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you, Dan. Bye-bye.
Bye, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Does it feel like your house is getting smaller every day? Like the walls are closing in around you? If you're like most people, you're spending more time at home working, entertaining friends and family, and even doing e-learning with the kids. What if you can improve your lifestyle by turning your unfinished basement into a whole new world? Hi, I'm Nick Richmond, proud founder of the area's largest basement finishing company, Matrix Basement Systems. We've finished over 6,000 basements, and every single space is unique. We tailor the design, the planning, and the build-out around your needs and your lifestyle. Whether you're in need of a home gym, a home office, a theater area for movie night, or a lower-level bar for entertaining friends on a weekend, we've got you covered. For you loyal AM 560 listeners, we're also offering 60 months of interest-free financing. That's right, 5 years of free money towards your long overdue basement finishing project. Don't keep putting it off. You don't have to. It's time to get you and your family that extra living space you deserve. Check us out online at mymatrixbasement.com. That's mymatrixbasement.com.
This is Charles Osgood. We all know, because we've been told over and over, how important it is to eat a balanced diet and that the nutrients in fresh fruits and veggies are essential to good health. Fine. But for me, knowing that and eating as if I knew it are two different things. I'm a meat and potatoes guy and always have been. So I was thrilled to find out that Balance of Nature capsules concentrate 31 different fruits and vegetables with no extracts or fillers and with all those phytonutrients we need to be in top form. Balance of Nature. It's well named. To touch all the bases, what I do is to take a few of the fruit and berry capsules, the red ones,